Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Sensibility edition. My guest today is Marcela Bretschneider. She's coming to us or speaking to us from Argentina. She's an Argentinian Feldenkrais practitioner and assistant trainer. Also studied Bones for Life and teaches that, and has a background in dance, long history with movement. Today, actually, a very interesting subject. She's coming to us to talk to us about a project that she organized or helped organize with two other, I believe they're practitioners
They are
from, where are the two other practitioners from?
they work and live in Ecuador, and they
In,
were trained in Mexico.
okay, yeah, sorry, in Mexico. So the project that Marcela ran with these two other practitioners was to take the Feldenkrais method to Ecuador over a week period and run a number of different workshops. So today, what Marcela is going to present to us is her experiences of that process, all of the different workshops that she ran, and how they went, and what she learned during that process. So just to give a bit of background, Ecuador is a country that has a degree of poverty and socio-political turmoil, and it makes it difficult for people to have access to things like the Feldenkrais method. So the project was kind of set up with that in mind, that it's a very worthwhile process to bring something like the Feldenkrais method and try and help support the people that live in Ecuador. So me personally, and I think that the Feldenkrais Guild of North America, really supportive of this project and, really happy to share Marcela's experiences. Marcela shared with me that, this was a challenging experience in some ways, taking the Feldenkrais method to Ecuador, in a relatively intense way over the course of 7 days. So I'm really happy to share this, and I think it's a really nice thing that she helped organize. So welcome, Marcela, and thank you for coming and talking to us about this.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you for letting me share this experience. I hope this inspires other practitioners to take some risks, to go out there, to take the method. I really did it in a very joyful spirit and openness without many certainties, going a little bit through the unknown
Mm,
because it wasn't very much established what was going to happen. But the two practitioners were very enthusiastic, and I was too. So we teamed together and we created and we founded this movement that we call it, in Spanish, we would say Movimiento Feldenkrais Ecuador, and in English would be translated into Ecuador Feldenkrais Movement. It's like a collective process
mhm,
where there are organizers and teachers and ideas, and it's the beginning of something that hopefully will grow. There are some practitioners in Ecuador. I think overall they might be five, maybe. Some live there, others do not live there.
mm,
But there's no training and no guild in Ecuador. So it was quite unknown and open, the process of taking the method there. And
mm,
the two practitioners who invited me were trained in Mexico in the Mexican training, and the Mexican Association was very supportive of this process, of this idea.
yeah.
But we didn't have any funds. We did it all trying to find the way and inviting the people
Mm,
to cover costs, and we did it. And we did it through a lot of participants that enrolled to the five workshops I gave there in Quito, which is the capital city.
mm,
And one of the ideas was to go through three guidelines: art, health, and education, taking the method in these three lines in some way.
beautiful. So what I'll do is I'll hand it over to Marcela, who's going to kind of go through some of the images and talk you through the different workshops. And then at the end, I'll come back and, ask some questions and have a chat about her experiences. So I'll just hand it over to you. If you need anything, just give me a shout.
Thank you, Joe. If I get stuck with language or
Yeah.
grammar,
No,
I raise my hand.
yeah, no problem.
Okay. Let's see how this goes through. Well, I'm having some trouble here. Wait, wait. Mm. Here we are. This is me. In front of the image would be on my left side. To the photo, it's the right side. I'm in yellow, and in the middle is the main leader of this idea, of this movement. Her name is Paulina Peñaherrera. She's a brand new practitioner. She finished her training, I think, 1 year ago or something like that, or maybe, I think not 1 year and a half or two, not much, not much more than that. She's a passionate student and practitioner. I have mentored her many times, and she's trying to build her practice in her place. She lives in a very special place, surrounded by nature in Ecuador. Her husband is a pianist. He's a student of mine in FIs. So we met in several environments in relation to Feldenkrais practice, and then she had this idea, and she was the main, I don't know how to say this, the main leader, the main pushing forward was Paulina. And on her side, on her left side, is Josie Caseres. She's also a practitioner. She was trained in Mexico. I don't know when she finished her training. And she was also very enthusiastic helping the project to go through. And she showed me the places where she worked, and she opened places because she also works in relation to dance and Feldenkrais. She's a teacher there in institutions in Quito. So the three of us were like the three musketeers taking the Feldenkrais method into different environments and places and communities in Quito, Ecuador. Let's see if this works now better. Yeah, now it's better. So it was a week which meant a life for me. It was 7 days that changed my life, and I have the feeling that changed the life of many people there. We began the week on Monday. I arrived to Quito on a Sunday. That this was June this year, 2025, and I received a group of Amazonian women who were not willing to mix themselves or share the space with other people because they live in very special environments and social and cultural situations. So they wanted to take care of that and being taken care. So I accepted openly. And before working with them, I had been set a lot of restrictions. They won't be talking very much. They don't want to be touched, and they don't want. I don't know. Maybe they are not very open. So I had a lot of restrictions, which I accepted and tried to teach an ATM. But I also asked them to bring some paper, maybe to write something, maybe we could share something. And as I have a background in dance and I have a lot of interaction with musicians and movement, I had some resources with music and movement that I was open to use maybe before the lesson or after the lesson. Well, the thing was that this was so intense, so beautiful, so moving for me, especially, and I think then for them. They were so open to the method. And they were talking about their fight in some way because they were fighting for their territory, they were fighting for their culture to be respected, for their ways of living, and their intense contact with nature. And then we went into the idea of protecting their selves and their through the movement, through their body, finding also a house within. And this was the bridge that I built between the stories they were telling and the Feldenkrais method. We planned a workshop of 2 hours, and we ended working around 6 hours because their timing was very different, and they suddenly opened themselves to talk about their lives. And of course, I had the need to honor that. So I gave them a space. So we rescheduled other activities to give them time. And the stories were terribly moving, and I think, and I would assure, because we then had a Zoom meeting when I was back in Argentina, that this opened some options and some new perspectives in their way of listening to themselves and listening to each other. So this was really, really a different and new experience for me and for them. Here is the place. We were in a kind of a little hut near are surrounded by nature, and this is the group. And if you can see in a picture here, facing the screen would be at the right side. We are working with a bell that we took this ATM for a while, and we contacted with a flower and different metaphors that they brought about nature and about the essential movements of life and where life begins. So yeah, this personally as a professional was a turning point in my profession. So this is my deep need to share it with the community, with the world. Let's see if it works. Yes. During that Monday, in the afternoon, in the evening, I had a complete different workshop. The organizers organized me a complete different workshop. I was a teacher. I was not organizing anything. I just was there open to what they organized me. And this was in a very beautiful space, room, in a beautiful place of Quito, completely different environment. And this was a workshop called Feldenkrais for Health, and most of the participants came from the health areas and professions. There were lots of doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, kinesiologists, and general public trying to get to know the relationship between the Feldenkrais method and medicine and other alternatives. So it was a complete different group, and I had to shift all my knowledge and myself to a different goal and orientation to meet these people who had a different story, history, and background than the Amazonian woman that I had seen in the morning. So this professionally was really interesting for me. So the method is the same. I'm the same woman. I'm the same practitioner, but it's a different environment. So things were said in a slightly different way. So I taught an ATM, and then we had half an hour to talk about their experience. And as I said, most of them were health professionals, so the questions were very, very different. They asked me, for example, how many sessions should I give to solve back pain, and I try to explain that we work in a very different way, that we work in a dialogue, that we go adapting to the circumstances, that every person is different. And this was very, very opening. And there were there was especially a physiotherapist that was insisting in some technical questions. And then at the end, she started crying, and she opened herself, saying how moved she was feeling in herself and how this had connected her in a very different way, and that she had never seen herself in this way, respectfully and with her dignity. And the bones had a different meaning for her now. So it was a very, very intense, very moving workshop. The room was full. We couldn't leave more people to get in there. So it was very stimulating for me and for the organizers. And they all left the workshop looking for more. No, they wanted more. This was just a taste of the Feldenkrais method for them and an opening. The place was called Agape. It's a beautiful place in a very nice place of Quito. On the other day, Tuesday, we began a 3 days workshop in the Dance University of Quito, which is called San Francisco University. So being in a university also was a different challenge and a different environment for me and for the organizers too. So we were in a basement, a very big basement in the university, in an enormous room with a lot of people who work and learn about different dance techniques, and they knew something very little about somatic education. Some had had some experience with Feldenkrais, good experience, but this was a very intense workshop. We met 3 hours per day during 3 days, and we had a musician, a percussionist musician. You can see him here on the left side of the screen. He brought his instruments and he took the ATM, which I gave in the beginning of the class, which was the first hour. He was my student. And then we had a little break, and then he shifted his place to be the musician by my side, and then I introduced and created the bridge to take the ATM to dance improvisation, which is my former background and my former profession. So we worked 3 hours per day, taking the thematic approach of the ATM into dance, into improvisation. So the experience was very intense. They had a lot of techniques and knowledge in relation to movement, but for most of them, this was the very first time that they were observing and aware and being aware of themselves in this way that we teach. So the process was very rich, engaging what they already knew about movement and this new way of knowing themselves. So this was very intense, and in relation to rhythms and music, they have so much language there that the connection between the method and their knowledge about dancing was incredible. I've taught this many times. I do teach this in Buenos Aires one Saturday per month, but here the experience was very different, very intense, and very moving. And having the musician there, it wasn't an external music. He was part of the group. He was a student of the class, and then made the music. This made a difference too. Here is one of the dancers. They were very open and very, I don't know, very connected with all the process. Very, very involved. Here's is a little bit more of this experience, which was 3 days. And this was another experience, another workshop I gave. This is my left side are fruits, because all Quito and all Ecuador is surrounded by an intense vegetation wherever I went. The practitioners, the organizers took these farms with fruits. People were eating fruits all the time, and the food was so healthy. That was so amazing for me. No one eating chocolate or biscuits. It's fruit, water, and the fruits were everywhere. So I brought these images that were so important for me. This is a national dance company. They were dancers. It's a dance company. And here the workshop was called Feldenkrais into Education. So what we did was, what I did with the help of the organizers was to give an ATM, to introduce the method through an ATM. And then I invited them to create small groups and taking their experience as the source of knowledge to try to write down, while they were interacting with each other, what they thought were the principles of the method. And to my surprise, the principles were so open, so clear, so fresh for them through this experience that, well, we worked for, I think, in the overall, I think it was 2 hours. But the whole process was so inspiring, and they left the meeting with such a fresh idea and clear idea of what this method could bring as a potential, that I felt very, very moved and very well with myself. This is me in the little groups at the left side, and on the right side is the ATM. It's an ATM that's called going from side from side to from your side to your back through extension. That's the name of the ATM. I took it from Jeff Haller's platform. It's a very iconic and typical lesson that most of you probably know. And at the left side of the screen, you can see me opening questions. I am a competency profile facilitator, and I am a mentor of practitioners around the world. And so I'm very used to create this environment of open-ended questions, constructive feedback, not judging, just collective learning. So that was the way we worked. That's why we called this workshop Feldenkrais into Education. And the last day, I went back to this beautiful place, which was called Agape, which was a very nice room. Remember, I showed you that. And I worked on a theme that I've been deepening the last years, which is called the Feldenkrais method and the sacredness of the feminine. So this was, again, a very nice place in a very nice part of Quito. And there was a group of women. I didn't take many pictures here because in the other ones we had official photographers. So these were some photos that appeared from some participants that shared. And we had a very intense experience talking about the Feldenkrais method and womanhood. We worked on ATMs that referred to the pelvic floor, the memory that our body has, and the memories about being women. And most of them were athletes or hikers, and they work in the mountains. And they had to be kind of tough and robust to do their work. And through this workshop, they reconnected with their sensuality and the bridge to the sexuality. So it was a very moving, sensitive, delicate workshop that took 2 days, 2 hours per day. It had an ATM and a moment of reflection. We also worked with poetry. And yeah, we worked with poems and reflections and narratives and sharing stories. And this is all. We had, after that meeting, after the sacredness of the feminine, we had a lovely party in Paulina's house. And Paulina's husband is a musician, so he played the piano, and everyone was so open to hear, to listen to the music. And there was a fireplace, and the food was so spectacular and fantastic that all our senses were intensively opened in so many ways. And this is something I cherish in my soul, and I hope some other practitioners can get through this experience, because we were there. Me was the teacher, the organizers, the students, we all gathered together, and we were in such a high quality connection that I wanted to share with the community this experience. These are some credits that are important to share. Paulina's daughter, whose name is Flora Neville, did all the social media communication. She made some interviews to me before I went there and after. She organized everything in relation to communication. And there were two professional photographers, Silvia and Estefania. So we have to honor her work too. And the Mexican Association supported this project in intention. It wasn't a financial support. It was just, we are here with you. And that was very important for me as a Feldenkrais practitioner and as a person who wants to, and a professional who wants to take care of the I don't know, the institutions and our places as practitioners and our guilds and all this organizing spaces that where we belong. So the Mexican Association support was of great value. Well, this is generally speaking my week in Ecuador. It was a week, it was a life for me. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, yeah, let's do that. Great.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
I,
it's really kind of, heartwarming and inspiring to hear about the journey. I mean, each of the workshops, they felt they had a quality of really getting people in touch with themselves,
yes.
not just the method. And I think that the way that you described it kind of really conveyed that feeling. Even the more kind of medical Feldenkrais for Health workshop, you shared that the lady that had the experience where she felt that she related to herself in a new way. And I think that that really kind of speaks to the process and the journey that you took people on. So really, really nice to learn about. Thank you.
Yes, I was wondering as a practitioner and as a mentor that I am, what would be the signs to me that would tell me that this is working, you know?
Mm,
And in that workshop, which started with very strong questions about bones and diagnosis, they were most of them doctors,
yeah.
and the workshop ended with this comment, and she was in tears, and she was a doctor that I said, this is working. I said to
Mm,
myself, I could confirm this is working. This is opening a door. And with the in the dance university, something similar happened because they could move so easily. So that was difficult to really perceive if they were getting into this new pathway of awareness or not, because they had so much ability to dance and to jump.
yeah.
But the last day, some dancers said, I realize how many times I have hurt myself. I have moved in relation to shapes and to what should be done and to show myself to the outside without taking care of myself. And she also was in tears, and many of them were very empathic with that being said, and they said similar things, and you could see in their faces they were really moved. And that was another feedback for me to say, this is working. This is opening a door. It's not about how much you jump or how much you twist or whatever, because they could do that. I could
Yeah.
see that. When I started, I started with an ATM with legs, and their legs could come here and there. And I said, very different to general public. So it was a different way of seeing if they were really if the method was going through their systems or not. It was
Yeah.
I had to create a different way of observing them and myself,
And
not the usual.
this was
Yeah.
there were two different workshops that you ran with dancers. One was working with were there students as well, the improv one, and then one you're talking about right now is working with classically trained dancers like ballet or
Well, there were two workshops. One was in the university, and most of them were dancers, but it was an open workshop, so anyone could get there. Most of them
okay,
were dancers with great experience.
yeah,
But there were other people too that made also an interested input in their group. So they had to also dance with other people. So it and then it was the national company ballet, the national company. And they were all very skilled dancers,
right,
and that group was not opened.
mm,
That was, uh, but yes, but some of them went to both. Those maybe this was the dancers groups of Quito. I'm not very, very, very sure about that. But
mm,
for us who generally work with general public, or I do work with some dancers, but having so much high qualified dancers was something quite different for me.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they can do the movements, then it's like what's the thing that they're taking from the teaching? Yeah.
Exactly, because when you work with general public, the first thing you observe is you naturally see, are they moving? Are they doing the movement I've imagined, I've intended them to do?
Yeah.
This was not the case.
Yeah.
They could do it very easily. It was not
Mm.
about the movement. It was so the challenge for me as a professional was very different.
Mm. Yeah, that's nice.
Very. So I did less. I opened more questions. I gave more pauses. I had to shift myself also not to get entangled and fascinated by the movement and get into the Feldenkrais source again and again.
Mm. And
I could, yeah, sorry, go
I was just going to
ahead.
say that, I mean, previously you told me that when we spoke about this earlier, that you gave an opportunity to discuss some of the principles that they experienced through your teaching of the lesson. So you kind of gave space for those dancers to, share what they took from it. So I don't know if you want to say anything about that as well.
But yes, that was a very pedagogic experience because I am a teacher and I am a mentor, so it's something that I'm very fond of.
Mm.
This workshop was called Feldenkrais and Education. I invited them to reflect in groups after the ATM what they thought were the principles of the method that made the method different to other techniques or method that they had taken or they had learned from.
Yeah.
This was the question. And I left them and I went through the groups to see if they had trouble or if they were stuck. They were not stuck at all. They were talking, they were reflecting, they were comparing sensations, they were comparing between each other their thoughts.
Mm.
And at the end, they had to read, I don't know what principles they could grasp, maybe three, four, five, two, I don't know.
Yeah.
And for my surprise, the principles were all there.
Mm.
Doing less, not effort, no pain, the skeleton as a main system where we rely on, the floor as an important place to connect and to dialogue in some way.
Mm.
Um, the the how do you say this in English? The evolution of the humanity from childhood
Oh,
to
okay.
all that movements because
Developmental
thank you.
evolution. Yeah.
Desarrollo evolutivo, I would say it in Spanish. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And they said it and they talked about this. And this was the first time they had a Feldenkrais lesson in their lives for most of them. I would say in that group, one or two might have had some experience, but to hear this was so comforting for me. It was a challenge to me to have feedback and to see how I'm in the right pathway. I'm not being trapped by movement or all these people jumping around.
Yeah.
And that was written and that was said aloud, and I was, wow, they are getting the seeds. They are
Mm.
getting the seeds. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. Hmm.
And so then it struck me as you were talking about it that the way that you taught some of the different groups was over different timescales. So the improv group got 3 days of working with you, and I assume that there was a different quality to that because you had, a day after a day after a day, and something kind of deepened during that process. So I don't know if you want to share something about that.
Well, everything was very deep, even the workshop that took 2 hours. That is something I keep on saying. But this workshop, yes, had a continuity that made it different, but it was open. So every day it wasn't the same group.
Okay. Okay.
This also was a
Interesting.
challenge for me. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
maybe the basic group the same, but other people came in.
Mm.
So I had, as a professional, a lot of challenges, a lot of going through the unknown.
Mm.
But the students that did the whole process of the 3 days, 3 hours per day, you could see in their faces there was something very transformative in the way of connecting with themselves and with the group and with the method. Yes, I could see that. And others that maybe jumped in and out had a good experience.
Mm.
also there was the last day there was a man that his girlfriend said, "You have to come here. It's beautiful. I've been here the 3 days. Come, come, come!" And he jumped into the class, and it was beautiful because he was kind of so genuine and naive to everything
Yeah.
that he brought something interesting to the improvisation too.
Mm,
So, yeah, I could say that the continuity makes a difference, but it's also something I experience in Ecuador that sometimes something very deep can happen in half an hour.
mm, yeah.
I can say both. I have
Nice.
both sensation, yes.
Mm. And so the other thing that kind of struck me is that you kind of started the week with the workshop with the Amazon, the women from the Amazon,
Yeah.
and ended with a group of women from the looking at the feminine. So it kind of had that sort of like, I don't know, initiation and closing kind of connecting in a similar vein. I don't know if you felt that, there was something soft there and something, um, you know, um, allowing those individuals to explore and to learn about themselves in both of those examples.
Well, this was something that was not planned
Mm.
because the Amazonian woman did not confirm till last time.
Okay.
In fact, I was thinking of having Monday morning free for
Mm,
myself.
mm,
And then they confirmed. And then they came and I said, perfect, I'm open to them. So some things that might seem now, uh,
planned.
they were not planned. So I need to be very honest with this.
Mm,
Uh, the feminine approach with the Feldenkrais method is something I've learned from Donna Ray, which is a trainer, an FDNA trainer, and I work with her alongside many times, and I took some ideas from her and I made new ones. But yes, it's a theme that made it softer because the week was so intense that maybe that makes something like, yes, it
mm,
was bring to a soft place and in a very intimate place in some way.
yeah.
So yes, even with the Amazonian woman, this is a Donna's metaphor. I work with the metaphor of a flower,
Mm,
and we were surrounded by flowers, tons of them, tons of colors, and the organizers invite them to take a flower. This was her place,
mm.
uh, and they say that they never take flowers. They never take flowers from
From
nature. This
nature,
is
yeah.
yes. So this was my first learning process as a
Mm,
teacher.
mm,
And then she said, "But there are some flowers that are really falling apart. You can take them that." And they took them not feeling very well. So we talked about that. And,
mm,
everything was so new. And the learning process was so deep for all of us. We
mm,
were all was learning too.
mm,
Yes, but maybe yes, it was kind of a loop within the intensity of the medical approach and other things that were kind of strong and more academic challenges for me in
yeah.
some way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds, the word that I would use to describe it is wholesome. It sounds like it nourished you as a practitioner this week, as well as the people that you were able to teach.
Yes, deeply. And that's why I have so much need to share it because I think I still have it in my system.
Mm,
That's why I said this shouldn't be postponed very much, but then I get grabbed into my everyday life. I do work a lot. I am a mentor. I organize trainings and advanced trainings, and that's beautiful. But
mm,
it's another part of myself, a little bit different or quite
mm,
different.
yeah.
So this experience was so organic in some way because
Mm,
everything was there, the nature, us, the participants that appeared every day. Till the last day, we didn't know if we were really covering costs, but the people came and we could cover all costs of the
mm,
photographers, the musician, my plane ticket. And we didn't earn money, but we didn't lose money. There was something.
yeah.
But everything went like a puzzle as nature working in the process. And I think this is important to share because sometimes as practitioners or trainers or advanced trainers or assistant trainers, we need a clear plan, or we need to anticipate as much as possible to know exactly what we are going to do or teach or do. And this was
Organic.
taking all the Feldenkrais method in me to be
Mm,
there,
mm,
and I think this can be inspiring.
for sure. It reminds me, you mentioned that you were a Bones for Life teacher.
Yes.
It reminds me of watching I think it's a 4 video set of Ruthie Along, where it's something along the lines of movement nature meant, and she's going through some of the ATM lessons, but in a kind of natural, organic progression, not in a sequence, not in a planned sequence, just following her body with knowledge of that, all of that knowledge in her so she could express it organically. It kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of that aspect of this work.
I know the images you're talking about. Yes, the first time I saw them, when I was very young, about Ruthie, and I said, "Why is she doing this?" And she
Mm,
goes on and on and on, and she
yeah,
doesn't stop after 45 minutes. And
yeah, yeah.
for me, it was at that time like not so orthodox this way, And now that I'm older or I have grown and in many ways. Yeah, this was something I had to do because
Mm,
if not, it was very far away of their way of living and moving,
yeah.
uh, especially with the dancers. And with the Amazonian women, they were talking and talking about their lives and their environment and their fight. So this way of like making it more adaptable to what I was finding in the group was something I had to do.
Mm,
Uh, Even I gave the ATM, and the organizers were very, very surprised. You are giving the ATM from the beginning to the end. I said, this is the ATM, and then we can do something else, and before we can do.
afterwards. Yeah.
But in my soul was I have to soften this process in some way.
Mm,
As I am an assistant, the moment I gave the ATM, it was very neat. But in myself, it was this organic way that Ruthie was
mm,
moving in myself.
nice.
I had to be like flexible,
Yeah,
adaptable.
responsive. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, maybe you asked someone to talk, and maybe the woman was talking for half an hour.
yeah.
I had to be there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned the workshop with the women from the Amazon, that spilled over into 6 hours. Because they obviously were interested in it. They got something from it and they wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, that was very moving. They didn't want to go, they didn't want to leave.
Mm,
Uh, And yeah, this is something I wouldn't do in other environments. I wouldn't do here in Argentina. In my workshops, I organize training, so I'm very scheduled and timing.
yeah.
At that time, I was there. They were there. They were needing it, and I could do it. And why won't we do it? So it was
Mm,
a shift in my constraints, my professional constraints.
yeah.
And, and yes, they came with a little bus on their, they were all isolated for the rest of, in relation to the rest of the world. And then they
Mm,
went back to their places. And the man who was driving the little bus, the little van said, when it's time. And I said, well, till when you can wait because they don't want to go. So
mm,
let's find a way. And then they left and they were all crying. They were crying with joy.
mm,
So that was such an immense experience. And in the break, some of them were selling jewelry. I have some things around here, I think. Where do I have this? Let me check if I can see it. Oh, I usually have it around. Well, if I find where I have it. And they were selling jewelry that they made with their hands,
mhm,
with from nature, and they needed that to live. That was the way they lived, and there were
yeah.
fruits there. They brought fruits. So everything was. Why is it that I'm not seeing this? Okay, it's not here. Um, it's always here. It's not here now. So everything was so moving for me, so moving for me that I had to hold myself. I had to put myself together too.
Mm.
The breaks were part of I had the sense of being in a movie. Where am I? It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, and this is obviously something that you told me about prior to us recording this, that, that Ecuador as a country, there is struggle there and poverty, and, that it's not, they don't have easy access to things like this. So that, for you, it was a very much, like a kind of an offering, offering this to this group of people, these different groups that don't normally, obviously the dancers and the health professionals, they have access to things in different ways, but as a country and as a people, it's not easy for them in accessing stuff like the Feldenkrais method.
Yes, we always have this struggle as professionals, no? Because we end working in very comfortable places with people who can afford it. But I reminded myself very much about Moshe's life.
Mm,
No, he had to survive. He was so resilient. He went through scarceness and not abundant moments of his life.
yeah.
So this was very present in me.
Mm,
Yes, just to get into my workshop, you had to have the possibility. But then I was uh, traveling, and the last day, the Friday, I took the day off, and we were in Quito, in the capital city, and you could sense the hostility of the country. It was very difficult for me to sense that.
mm,
However, I live in Argentina, and all Central South America it's hostile, but I have the sense that here it was more difficult
mm,
for everyone. Even the Feldenkrais practitioners who work there, they have a difficult time to maintain their practice. They do as much as they can.
mm,
Um, yeah, I don't know much about the political and the background of the country, but I could sense the hostility. It was there
mm,
everywhere. So bringing this in such a fresh way and an honest way without I even
expectations, yeah.
had no expectations. I
Mm,
even had the feeling that for a moment maybe we were going to give the workshop for free because no one was enrolling.
mm,
In our countries, and I include Argentina here, people don't book themselves very in much. How do you say this in English? In advance. I have a very close friend. She lives in London,
mhm.
and she books our meetings maybe 6 months before or 1 year before. We don't work that way. Here, we don't work that way. So, and there,
It's
less.
less so, yeah. Yeah.
People were enrolling maybe 2 hours before or half hour before the meeting. And so
Mm,
everything, we don't know where we are. We don't know where we're going to get. Yes, all this region is very difficult to maintain the practice, but I think Ecuador in particular was very, very hostile.
mm,
So these practitioners were giving their lives to spread the word, to spread the method. And the participants, I assume they will multiply the
mm,
seeds they got to other people. And maybe some people that maybe cannot afford it can get there. And yeah, it's very moving
yeah.
to spread the work this way without.
You you used the analogy of planting a seed when we spoke yesterday about this. So I think that that's a really, apt description of and also that the quality that the whole week kind of happened with, that really feels like the kind of quality that is necessary for a plant to grow, you know, that kind of nurturing environment where everything is the right conditions. So yeah, it sounds to me like you've definitely planted a seed, and I guess you'll see where that grows.
Yes, I had that sensation, and I had the feeling that the soil was very fertile,
Yeah.
but I don't know what's going to grow.
For
I
sure.
left it there. But
Yeah.
the good thing that I also want to share as part of a community,
Mm,
that all the process between me and the organizers was very fluent, was
mm,
very easy. We were all in the same mood of doing our best, like artists. I'm also an artistic photographer,
mhm,
and when you're in the artistic mind, you're there, and you're not looking for an outcome. You're open to whatever happens. So that was the flow that took us there.
mm,
It was easy although I spoke about the hostility of these countries that I live in too.
mm,
um, there was something very Feldenkraisian in the way that it was very easy. It was
mm,
fluent. We were not fighting between each other, or there were no. We were just, let's try, let's do it, let's go with all the love we have for the method. The three of
mm,
us, we were in that mood.
mm,
Let's take the love we have for the method to wherever we can. So,
mm.
yeah, I gave 2 or 3 workshops per day. It was crazy. They were trying to take as much as possible.
Yeah.
But the passion we have for the method was the energy that propelled us to be there and to do it.
That's lovely. Yeah. I'm so pleased that you get to share this, and that hopefully, people that are watching this get something from it, even if it's just the quality of the experience, or the generosity that you and the other two practitioners, have and had in that week. So yeah, it's really nice to learn about. I don't know if there any, anything else that you want to share with people before we wrap up today.
I am very thankful to you for this opportunity to sharing this. I had really an organic need to show it, to put it on the table,
Yeah.
not to keep it in a drawer, locked down.
Yeah.
I thought this had to be said and spread and shared. And if anyone around the world wants to contact me to get inspiration, to get ideas,
Mm,
to know more details about how we did this, I'm totally open to all.
mm,
Uh, because, well, I've shared as much as I could, but there may be someone wants to know more details or more specific about one workshop or another one.
yeah.
Um, and here is my openness and my person to
Lovely.
whoever wants to contact me.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll provide links to Marcela, and so that give her email address, and I think you have an Instagram account that people can communicate
Yeah,
with you.
I have shared my Instagram. I hope you have it. If not, I'll resend it. And I have also shared the Instagram of Movimiento Feldenkrais Ecuador, which is
Mm,
Ecuador Feldenkrais movement. And there you'll see a lot of videos and interviews, and you'll see more pictures and images and videos. And maybe someone comes up with some ideas.
yeah. And if you're watching this in Ecuador and you want to get in contact and organize some more workshops, I'm sure that Marcela, or at least the other two practitioners, will be responsive. So
Sure.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Um, as mentioned, there's lots of different ways to get in touch with Marcela. You are, as an assistant trainer, involved in trainings, but do you also teach the general public as well?
Sure. Very much. Yes, I give online lessons every Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 12 Argentina time. It's open to all. And I organize advanced trainings in English and Spanish and many other things. In the trainings, I mainly work as a mentor to help practitioners to create their practice, to build their practice. This
Mm,
is my main competence. This is why I'm hired from the trainings mainly. This is
yeah.
what I mean.
Mm,
Yes.
great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.